I do a lot of webinars. I do a lot of presentations, giving out this value, this information, how to navigate the process, when to start studying for the SAT. Based on my personal circumstance, what should I do? How should I approach it? I do all of these presentations. We present data to school districts. We present SAT and ACT differences to parents and PTA meetings and all kinds of school college nights and stuff like that. That is all free. Like, I do all of that because I remember not having the information about the system, and that could have saved my parents so much money in my college experience or gotten me into a better college, wherever the case may be. That's why I want to give that back. So that's like a huge core goal for my company, is to like continue to make that part of our services free. My name is Nick Lapoma, and I am the owner of Curve Breakers Test Prep. We are a test prep company in Garden City, New York, and we help countless schools and private individuals get into the college of their dreams.
Very interesting. So talk to me about that process. First of all, before we even get into the process, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got, it's a very unique industry. How did you fall into this?
Backtrack all the way to when I was in high school. My parents did everything they could to help me get through the college process. They provided me with an SAT tutor. I was an athlete. They took me on college showcases. I spoke with coaches. But at the end of the day, we didn't really know how to navigate the process. So, I had a 99th percentile SAT score, and I was a D1 recruited soccer player, and ended up at a good college. But I probably could have, say, went to college for free and saved my parents a lot of money, or maybe gone to a better college. Who knows, right? As I got older, I started, on my educational journey, becoming a lawyer. I'm actually a licensed attorney in the state of New York still. I don't practice. But when I went through that process, I was an adult, right? So I started doing my own research, looking into it, and I realized that this was a huge game, right? The college process, the admissions process was not as transparent as it seemed to be. So what I did was, when I went to law school, I started doing my own research, figuring out how the game worked, and I realized that it was a game. So a lot of law schools accepted me based on my test scores, my grades, and I got no scholarship offers. So literally no money offered to me to schools that probably should have been offering me a full scholarship. Now, why did that happen? Probably because of my zip code, what my parents did, their income level, whatever the case may be. So I took it upon myself to read online. I read a comment on a Reddit forum that said, you can call a college or a law school and you can ask for more money. So I did that. I called the law school that I wanted to go to, and I said, literally, like, is it possible for me to get a scholarship? Literally 5 minutes later, they offered me a full scholarship from zero.
Wow.
Now, I went and did that to 3 or 4 other schools and ended up with hundreds of thousands of dollars in law school scholarships. That set a light bulb off in my head. Like, this is now really a game. This is an information battle, right? Like, if you have this kind of information, if you know how to navigate this system, you can get much better outcomes out of it than if you don't. I started doing test prep when I was 19 years old. I worked for various companies, big ones, small ones. And at some point I said, I have a value to give to the community. I can help people do better with this process, do better on standardized tests, get better outcomes with college. And that's when I started my own company. And, fast forward 10 years, now we have, 30 tutors, 10 people in the office. We work with 30, 40 schools. We're, getting bigger and bigger every day, and really helping more students, reaching more people, giving out this kind of information. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to come on something like this, was to tell people that this information does exist. It's
Mm.
not always about being a genius. Like, yeah, okay, that's very helpful. That's great. At the end of the day, having the right information and how to navigate through the college process is the most important thing. And that's how I ended up here.
So talk to me about some of the information. What is some of the information that people don't know?
That's a good question. I mean, what schools to apply to, what colleges actually want. What do they look at? What do they not look at? What matters to a college? That may differ from college to college. Some colleges may be more interested in your grades, your extracurricular activities. Some colleges may be really focused on test scores. Some colleges may look very strongly at recommendation letters, college essays. There's a whole package for each college that will work, and there's one that won't work.
So how do you know what one college will work? What will work from one college to compare to another?
The way you would know what would work for one college and not for another would really be research and knowledge. And this is like the information battle, right? This is the value that a test prep company like mine can provide to a school, can provide to a family. So it's not just like, yes, we can tutor someone, help them improve their SAT score. Like, not to say that's easy, but that's something that anybody could do,
Hmm.
right? And I firmly believe that, like, students a lot of times feel very pessimistic about standardized exams. everybody can do better on standardized exams. There's also this information hurdle of like knowing which schools to apply to, what programs are out there, what scholarships are out there. A lot of that information is kind of like the icing on the cake for the family, like why, choose one company over another. It's like, can you call someone, have a conversation with them, and get advice, get information?
Yeah.
And that's what I try to provide.
So in addition to just providing a better test score, helping the students get a better test score, you provide the next step. Okay, now that you have this better test, here's what we can do with that kind of thing.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, very interesting.
Additionally, for schools, we also can provide data. So that's one of the other things. Like we kind of have a two-sided business. Like half of it is working privately with families, the other half is working with schools and school districts. On the school district end, we have ways through software and AI to analyze students' performance. So we can take a group of students that we're working with, say, and run their information, their scores through a system and figure out their strengths and weaknesses. When we're doing the program the next year at the school, we can use that information to improve it year over year and kind of change it and customize it to the individual school. Um, that's hugely, hugely important. One thing a lot of people don't know is nowadays the SAT is a digital test. It's on a computer. So anyone watching this might remember doing the SAT paper and pencil, Scantron. Like it is not like that anymore. It is done on a computer. It's a digital adaptive test. And that means that the people preparing the students need to understand that technology and have their own technology to help evaluate students and help them improve.
I'm not that old, and I did not know that actually.
Well, it just happened in 2024.
Okay,
So
okay.
2024, the SAT went digital.
Wow, that is so wild. So talk to me a little bit more about that information with the schools. I'm curious on that end of I guess I don't know if we want to call it corporate, but it's more of like as opposed to the private sector that you help with the individuals, the bulk with the schools. So this information that you're providing them, like how do they utilize it? So they hire you this first year. What's that benefit the first year? And then you mentioned every year you can improve on previous years' experience and data. But what is that? What are they? What are you collecting, and how do they actually utilize that?
Yeah. The way that we work with schools, there's really, I would say, three primary ways. And we do all of these at various schools in Long Island, the city, other states. Way number one is like we literally just send an instructor into the school to do an SAT prep class, just like everyone remembers taking, or a lot of people remember at their school. You go down, after school, you take the SAT prep class. We obviously do it a little bit differently based on what we've spoken about, but that's kind of like item number one. Any school can set that up. A lot of schools in the city pay for it. They have budgets that are designed to help with supplemental learning. Uh, that's a great way for students to prepare for the exam. The other way is we can actually train teachers that are doing in-school SAT prep. So at some districts, they have an elective called SAT prep or college prep. We can train them, provide them with the software, provide them with the books, so on and so forth. We do that training. We just did one last month. It's great. The teachers are, they're able to then really help the students prepare for the exam, and they're also equipped with the right information to, handle the digital SAT, which has changed within the past year and a half. The third way is we have an online course, a pre-recorded, self-paced video course that I filmed. It's in a YouTube, TikTok style, really more of a YouTube style, but it's in a digital format that students can absorb. Like it's something
Mm,
they can handle. Short
mm.
videos, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15-minute videos. It's the same format course that someone would pay $600 for, but schools can get it for a wild fraction of that. So we have some schools that buy it for all of 10th and 11th grade or 11th and 12th grade, and they can get the entire school prepped for the SAT at a extreme fraction of what you would pay to say have 500 students prepared for the SAT, right? Like 500 students times even $400 is an inordinate amount of money, right? So we're talking $10 a student approximately. So the district can then provide that resource to students, and a lot of districts do that because it's a great way to kind of level the playing field. Like I was saying earlier, like a lot of students aren't going to have access to this kind of information. It's very costly. SAT tutoring, extremely expensive, right? So you're getting the same value, you're getting the same person who's charging $400 an hour telling you the information for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, it's not necessarily undercutting because you're providing totally different services and totally different. But I'm curious the response you've gotten from the typical SAT tutors that are charging $400 an hour and be like, what is this company coming and doing? And how do you handle that? What is I'm just it's nobody likes confrontation in business, and I'm curious if you've received that and how you handle that.
Yeah, I mean, something like that is definitely going to shake things up a little bit. To be honest, there's definitely a number of people doing something to that level. Because part of this, when I started the company, I was thinking back about my own experience. Like, my parents did everything they could to provide SAT tutors to help me through this process. They did an amazing job. I have incredible parents. Not everybody has the means to pay $5,000 for an SAT tutor.
Mm.
So that was more my thought. My thought wasn't like, can I undercut someone or can I go around a system or whatever? Someone might view it that way, but I was more thinking like, how can I provide a huge value to as many students as possible? Like that's kind of our company goal is to give people a chance on these kind of tests, like really show them what good preparation looks like. Obviously, there's a value to the human interaction. Some students may need someone to sit down with them and explain things. That's totally fine, right? At the end of the day, it's a way for schools to really give something of value to every student without having to pick and choose who can be in the class, who cannot be in the class, or charge for the class and then have that issue come into play. So a lot of schools do multiple things and families do multiple things. Like they might put their student with a tutor, but also have them review the course as supplemental learning material. So um, overall, it's worked out very
Yeah,
well.
and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you were undercutting. I'm
No,
just
no, I know.
curious on that aspect. But so it sounds like more of your goal was just to serve as many people as you could, and especially particularly with a service like this, it can be very costly. So the goal is to like, how can we not cut the cost, but how can we make it affordable and accessible to as many people as possible to make them succeed, help them
Yeah,
succeed.
that's exactly it.
So tell me now about the I guess you could say the private sector that you do. So the one I guess is a one-on-one tutoring with parents and stuff, or like students hired by parents.
Yeah. So the way we do the one-on-one tutoring with individual students is in our office in Garden City, any student can come take a free practice exam. That is a 100% open offer. We tell schools that, we tell parents that. The reason is there's two tests actually. There's also something called the ACT, which many people don't know which one is right for them. Like, oh, which one would I be better at? Which one should I do? We give people the opportunity to figure that out. So you can come take an SAT, you can come take an ACT, and then I will personally look that information over and advise the family, advise the student as to what I think the best course of action is for them. We all have different skills and abilities, like different tests might feel differently to different people. So it's incredibly important for students to try both if they feel like they need to. And we provide that as a resource. And that's kind of how we kick off the process with students is to like, let's just see where we're at, kind of level set. Like, let's see where our score is. Let's see what our strengths are, maybe some areas for improvement. And then a lot of times I sit down with the family and really go through that with them and show them these are the things that went really well. These are some things that the student needs to work on and then also kind of put into place a plan for improvement, like my recommendations. That's going to change depending on the student's goals.
Mm.
So, some students might be happy with, a 1200 because they're a recruited athlete and that's what the coach told them they need. Other students might be applying to a really competitive school. Colleges are extremely competitive now. It's spiraling out of control almost how high the SAT scores are for some colleges, or average SAT scores. If we need to get to that kind of score, we might need a different plan. So everything on the private end is totally customized to the individual. Even on the school end, we alter the programs depending on what the school wants, what their student body is like, what the goals are for the program.
Let's talk the ACT and SAT for a second. From your experience, who have you find benefits from taking the ACT versus the SAT?
So the reason someone would do better on the SAT or the ACT really comes down to the content that's present on the two exams. So the SAT is a half math exam. So basically half of the test is English, half of the test is math. Both sections are out of 800, so you have the traditional 1600 total score that everybody knows. The ACT, on the other hand, is actually changing this September, and it's changing to a three-section format. So basically, you're going to have English, which is a grammar section, math, and then reading comprehension. So math is only 1/3 of the ACT. Math is half of the SAT. So if math is your strength, you might like the SAT better. And if math is maybe a weakness for you, you feel like you're much better at English, you might prefer the ACT. There's other factors, and the other main one being the time management aspects of the two exams. The SAT is a slower paced exam with fewer questions, and the ACT is a faster paced exam with more questions to do in kind of a quick fashion. So students that move quickly sometimes like the ACT, and students that like to think about things and take their time, double check stuff, those students might like the SAT. So depends on your learning style and your personality.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm curious your perspective on the college landscape. You started talking about like how college acceptance and the SAT scores are getting crazy, and I'm curious even from the aspect of like cost of college and stuff. With this age where there's been a conversation where people are like, is college worth the expense? Where everybody goes to college and then you go to college, spend 200 grand, and now you work in a Starbucks. I'm curious what your opinion is on that, and then how it affects your business, if at all.
Yeah, my opinion on the college landscape is basically over the past 5 years since COVID, that's where it's really kind of just spiraled out of control. During COVID, basically, because the world was shut down, students couldn't take tests. They literally could not do these tests, the SAT and the ACT. So a lot of schools did what's called test optional policies. Basically, you don't have to send in an SAT or ACT score. First off, I think that those policies, generally speaking, are a good thing. We all know someone out there who's like very bright, very successful, not good at tests. I think everyone is in agreement that it's fair for a lot of students to kind of, forego this process if it's not reflective of their ability. At the same time, it's very hard for colleges to evaluate students without these kind of tests. So what happened was when so many students realized that they could apply to certain colleges without a test score, the college application numbers just went up out of control. So we're talking like schools that were getting 30,000 applications, getting 60,000
Wow.
applications. What's the net result of that? If a school used to have a 20% acceptance rate, they double their applications, they didn't double their dorm rooms, they're going to have a 10% acceptance rate. So that makes it more competitive. If some students are foregoing sending in their SAT or ACT score, what's that going to do? That's going to raise the average SAT score. And then that score is now higher. And then the next year, kids with, say a school had a 1400 SAT average. If you had a 1350, you wouldn't send it in. If all the kids with 1350s and below don't send it in, next year, the average is going to go up. And then next year, all the kids with 1400s aren't going to send it in. And then the next year, the average is going to go up. So this kind of created this vicious cycle where you look at colleges online and you see every single college having huge SAT score numbers, average numbers. And that kind of turns people away. It makes them think like, oh, well, I can't get that kind of number, or I don't have that kind of number, so I'm not going to send in my application to that school, or I'm going to send it in, but I'm going to send it in test optional. So this is just what's created this like hyper just this crazy environment of applications and made it much more competitive. Then you add in the rising costs and people say like, what is it? Like, what's going on? Like, how do I deal with this? Like, what do I do? Students are now sending in 15 to 20 college applications sometimes. Remember back when you did it, I don't know how many you remember sending in. I probably remember sending in 6 or 7, and maybe that was kind of high even for when I was doing it. So that's another aspect, right? Kids are sending in more and more college applications. So it's definitely a difficult environment. But I think when you add in the cost, that's where you see a lot of articles, you see a lot of TikTok videos, you see stuff online of like, is this worth it? Is the rat race, is the stress involved, is all the prep and everything worth it? And I think that's like a personal decision. We all know someone who is wildly successful that didn't go to college, didn't go to a great college. I mean, we could go on and on about this. We also know people that are very successful in great careers that are nurses, that are doctors, that are accountants, that are lawyers, whatever the case may be. Those people have to go through the schooling to get to those careers. So it's kind of a person by person decision, like what you want out of your life. I think one of the big things about college is that it's a period of personal growth for a lot of people. I know for me it was. Going into it, I wasn't, I was a good student, but I didn't really know how to study. I didn't know how to apply myself. Going to college, meeting other students, like learning from people, that helped me transform myself as a student, as a person, become more mature, learn responsibility, become independent. I think there's a huge value there. Now, the question is that value $400,000 or not, right? So I think if you look at it as like, what career am I coming out of this with, or what's my potential career path, and that's a career path that has a great end result, I think you have a great reason to spend money on college. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, it's something to consider more, like maybe trying to lower the cost of college or get a scholarship or go to a school that is maybe less expensive than, $90,000 a year.
From your experience and from you actually calling up that law school, do you find that that is the case for like even somebody applying just to regular like a bachelor's degree college? That if they call, that there's a good chance that they can just by asking get some financial aid?
You can actually get financial aid by, well, not financial aid, but like a merit scholarship by calling a college. You have to know how to go about it though. It's not the kind of thing where you could just like call up the main number of the school and figure it out.
Okay,
There's
touche,
a,
because that's
yeah,
what I kind of
yeah,
assume. Can you walk me through that process of with what that? How do you go about it?
yeah. I mean, a lot of it has to do with it being merited first. Like there needs to be an argument that you should receive money. A lot of it has to do with leverage. Like if you have other schools that are similar in caliber giving you big scholarships, sometimes there's something you can do there. Undergraduate schools do not do as much of that as graduate programs, right? They have thousands and thousands of applicants, so their incentive to do that is much lower. But I have had people get, $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year. If you add it up over 4 years and you have several children, it could be a lot of money. And that's just one way. Another way is SAT scores, right? A lot of scholarships for college are related to SAT scores. So those test optional applicants, it's great if you're not great at tests or it's just something you don't want to do, you can still get in, but you may get less offers financially from schools. So sometimes the SAT is really a financial tool. If you have a student that's like really good at tests and can do well on it, it's financially beneficial to like try to get their score up as much as possible because the money you get in return
Yeah,
is
very interesting.
huge.
So, what's next in business for you? How do you like? What's the next level, or where are you going with the company?
Where I'm going with the company is basically increasing the technology and working on the software. So taking the video course that we have and expanding it, incorporating AI, and really making it a comprehensive tool for students and for school districts to prepare students the best way possible with the digital SAT age,
Yeah.
right? The test is given on a computer. If students are not getting used to that environment, understanding how that technology works, and being evaluated with technology, they're not being prepped the best way they could. So I'm taking what I already have and what is already a great product for schools, and I'm expanding it.
You mentioned like 35 to 40 districts, you said, correct?
Yeah,
Is that in the New York area or is that nationwide or?
they're mostly in Nassau, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, like the five boroughs and Long Island, but we also have some in other states.
Well, my follow-up question is I'm curious, like, first of all, would that be the goal to expand this nationwide? And I'm curious why more schools haven't, like, is it just a name game? Like you just need to get your name out there kind of thing? Or what is the biggest barrier you've been finding to getting every school to work with your company?
The biggest barrier is that what we do is sometimes so different than what people are used to.
Mm.
It's kind of hard to figure out what the value is. With the SAT changing to a digital format, it's like, okay, now we need to have digital tools. And, instead of kids, if I go back, 20 years of my career doing this, we started with photocopies and kids, writing on paper and, chalkboards. And now we're talking about digital analytics and evaluating percentile ranks and how students are performing on different question types and data sets, and it just totally changed. I mean, there's parents that I talk to that have a student that's like 3 or 4 years older, and they come into my office with their next child who's going through the process now, and they're just like, what is going on? The test is digital. Our company has taken these steps forward to try to really help students get the best results. So I think that's a huge challenge is, for schools also implementing these kind of things. It's extremely easy to implement our self-paced course.
Mm.
Like literally we just need to log the kids in and it's live.
How do you find that that best works with the students? Do they have a dedicated class for that? Do they do it on their own time? What does that look like?
That's a great question. The best way to like launch these kind of things is really during some sort of advisory period or a homeroom, study hall, something like that, where students are kind of monitored. Like there's someone in the room, like just having the students log in, use the product. But students also use it very successfully on their own. We've actually had students buy it, so we also have it for sale, for random consumers in something like 40 different countries.
Well,
So all over the place, like, every continent basically. And they use the course just self-paced.
Yeah. I want to talk about the friction of kind of understanding the value. I think a lot of businesses can relate to that because I think that they offer something really valuable. It's just maybe formatted in a way where it's just new and people don't totally understand it, and therefore they're not willing to pay because they don't understand the value. Talk to me about that struggle that you have, but also the what you're doing to try to introduce, like, how are you overcoming that?
Yeah, it is a struggle when you have something new or even just any product that you're trying to break into an industry and have people listen. That's one of the hardest things in business, right? Like, you have the greatest idea of all time, but if no one notices it, it's gone forever,
Hmm.
And what we try to do is have our customers understand, our prospective customers understand how much extra there is just beyond a video course. So, like, after we do a course at a school, whether it be an in-person course or whatever the case may be, we produce data for the school. So we're providing them on the back end. This is what you got out of the money you spent, right? We can show proven improvements for the students in their school, like live in real time. That's the part that's hugely valuable for a school because anyone who's an administrator is going to want to see something like that and be like, hey, this was totally worth it for us to buy this product or host this class or whatever the case may be because we got this benefit. You know, the average students going up 100, 150 points in a school, the amount of scholarship dollars that are going to stem from that could be astronomical.
Hmm. So what does that conversation look like? What is, I guess, the marketing behind it? Is it a lot of word of mouth? Is it a lot of B2B, one school tells another school, or is it just you knocking cold calling doors?
A lot of it has to do with just connecting with the right people, connecting with the person responsible for this in their school, um, letting them know what we do and trying to show them the value. So, yeah, going to conferences is great. Marketing, sending out stuff, all that is great as well. But a lot of it comes from someone experiencing it, really looking at it. Like, and that's kind of the challenge is you have to get someone to look at this product, look at our services, look at our classes, see what we do, and recognize how different it is from all the other things that are done. There's a lot of good companies out there. Like, that's not to say like there's not anyone else in the world that does this well. There's plenty of people that do it well. Everyone has a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes like looking at what we do to see that it actually is really different.
Yeah, very interesting.
So one other thing I wanted to add was just some of the added benefits that we give to our customers and to our school customers, so our private customers and schools. I do a lot of webinars. I do a lot of presentations, giving out this value, this information. Like I was saying earlier, the information value, how to navigate the process, when to start studying for the SAT, based on my personal circumstance. What should I do? How should I approach it? I do all of these presentations. We present data to school districts. We present SAT and ACT differences to parents and PTA meetings and all kinds of school college nights and stuff like that. That is all free. Like, I do all of that because, going back to my personal story, right? I remember not having the information about the system, and that could have saved my parents so much money in my college experience or gotten me into a better college, wherever the case may be. That's why I want to give that back. So that's like a huge core goal for my company is to like continue to make that part of our services free.
Yeah.
Any customer, but really any parent that wants to call me and ask me a question, I'm picking up the phone. So that's just how I operate, and that's just what I want this company to be about. Not guarding information, secrets. That's unfortunately the SAT prep industry is unregulated. I come from a legal background. I'm an attorney, right? You do something bad as an attorney, you get in big trouble, right? You get disbarred, you could go to prison, whatever the case may be, right? We see the stories on the news all the time, right? There is no governing body of the SAT prep industry. So anyone can go out tomorrow and say, I am an SAT prep instructor, right? That's a little scary, right? Like, a lot of, bad stuff can come from that. Not people intentionally being malicious, but just not knowing what they're doing or not knowing how to navigate certain situations or systems. And that's why I always want to be a resource for people. If anyone feels like, maybe their student is not getting the best guidance or something's wrong, like, I'm always happy to have that conversation with someone. And I know, a lot of the people who do this kind of stuff in this industry. I'm in the National Test Prep Association, all that good stuff. There's a lot of great people out there.
Yeah.
Right.
So what would be the plan for hopefully one day a national rollout? Say, for example, tomorrow you get a call from a school in Oklahoma. What's the process from that?
If I got it's funny because we just got we're having a meeting with a school in Kansas next week.
Oh, there you go.
But
So look at that.
yeah,
Okay, so you get a call.
we've had schools in South Carolina and Florida and
Okay,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
So talk
So
to me about that. What's that process like? 'Cause it's a little different. While they still have access to you by phone and stuff, it's not like you're just walking in and you're introducing yourself to unless you fly out there. But
I would fly out there if I needed to go to a school district in a different state and do a training or something like that. I 100% would. I think the process would be slightly different only in respect to any in-person stuff. So like we wouldn't be able to like send an instructor in person to a school in Oklahoma or Florida, but we would be able to train the teachers to do the SAT prep class. We would be able to provide online resources, the self-paced video course, books, materials, so on and so forth. So it would basically be the same thing we're doing, just minus the in-person instruction.
how many school districts are in the New York area?
I should know the answer to that. Hundreds.
Really?
Oh, hundreds, yeah. There's like even in the even in the city, there's hundreds of schools.
Hmm.
The way it works now is you have a huge high school, let's just say like X high school that had 3,000, you go back 20 years, it would have 3,000 kids in it in the city. They kind of like segment them into smaller, more personalized schools. So one school might be an art school, one school might be a science school. So within a campus that used to be a huge high school that has 5,000 kids, it might be now like five schools that have 1,000 kids that have different like feels to them, like more arts, more English, more law, more science, and kids can like kind of choose which one they want to go to, and it's
And those are all considered different schools.
yes, and they're all public.
So if you got into the music school, it's not like you're now into the science school too. You have to now like your business would have to like work to get into that school as well.
Yeah,
Oh, there's a lot of schools you have access to,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, one day, right? So what's next? What do you how do you implement that? How do you continue to get into these next schools?
I think doing things like this, right, like just getting my message out there, like explaining to people what my company philosophy is. Um, you know, I really do love working with individual students. Like, I really enjoy working with individual families. I've had some incredible students, to work with over the years. Like, truly remarkable people that I'm like, someday this student is going to be incredibly successful. Like, I'm going to see them on the news for an incredible reason, like 10 years from now. They'll own some company, they'll win an award, whatever. At the same time, I also really love reaching as many students as possible. Like sometimes I go down to some of the school partner sites. Like, you own a business, you got to do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? One of the instructors gets into a car accident. Knock on wood, they're fine. Someone has to show up to the school on short notice. There's no one available. Who's going to show up? Me, right? Like I have to go do it. But sometimes I like that. Like I get to meet the students in the schools that we work with. A lot of times they're wildly appreciative. You would be surprised. You would think that students would be like, "Ah, who cares about SAT prep? Like, this this is boring, whatever." Like, yeah, SAT prep, it's not the most fun thing in the world, but I think a lot of the students realize that their school is doing something really incredible for them and helpful for them, right? It's a lot of work, for some people to set things up, and for our people and for people at schools to organize all this stuff. And I think I've noticed over the years going down to schools how incredibly appreciative the students are sometimes and like literally thanking me when I leave the lesson for the day. Like, we really appreciate you doing this. Like, this was helpful. Like, I learned something today,
Yeah, it's got to be incredibly
Yeah, that's a
rewarding.
great feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I look forward to seeing where you guys are going because it's a really unique sector that you guys are in, but also a huge sector where there's available growth. So I'm excited to see how this goes, and I'm also excited to see how you continue to pivot and stuff as the industry changes.
I actually also help sometimes uh, in colleges. Like, I present one of my good contacts in the industry is a professor at Hofstra and for school counselors.
Mhm.
Basically, there's a school of school counseling, and they have to be educated on the SAT and ACT. So I get called into the college to do a presentation on the differences. With all the changes, SAT changing in 2024, the ACT changing literally next month, there's a lot to like explain.
Yeah.
And that I could talk about for like the little nuanced changes, minute little differences. Like, I can explain them all to people.
Yeah. Well, this is a business podcast. A lot of the business owners are parents, and parents want their children to succeed. So that being said, if a parent is listening, they have a child that's SAT, ACT age. What are some tips that you would recommend? Obviously, the initial tip would be to use your company, right?
Yeah,
But
I
outside of
wouldn't even
that,
say that. I wouldn't even say
outside of
that.
that, what are some practical tips that you have for them?
The number one practical tip for preparing for the SAT or ACT is you really want time on your side. I think the biggest mistake I see people make is they seek the assistance from a company, from a teacher, from school counselor, whoever, but it's too late, right? This is a finite window that you have to take these exams. So the recommended schedule that I would give any student is that when you're going into 11th grade, the summer, where you're leaving 10th grade and you're going to 11th grade, you should sit down and do the diagnostic test, SAT and ACT. Obviously, you can do that at Curve Breakers for free, but you also can do it for free online yourself, right? The only issue with that is you won't have the analysis tools and someone to look at it. But I recommend any student, takes that opportunity, and that's how they can kind of determine what should I do next. Like, I have a really good score, I want to have a great score. I don't have that far to go. Maybe I don't need to study for 6 months, 9 months. I'm really far off from my goal. I want to have a much better score. I'm applying to really competitive schools. I still have time on my side to study for the exam. If you start that process, 3 months before you're applying to college, then you don't have the time on your side to really work on your exam work and also your college applications, keep your school grades up. Like all those things are important. So I think having time on your side is like the number one, like just most general piece of advice I would give is
Yeah.
like start early just to look at this process.
Another thing I want to talk about is you. I think before we started filming, you started talking about your social media and some of the success you've had on social media. I'm curious how you're leveraging social media with the business.
Yeah, I leverage social media really as a tool to kind of further my company's goal, right? Which is like provide as much information to as many people, provide as much value to as many people as possible. The whole reason I started posting on TikTok in the first place was merely to just like provide information during a very tough time for students.
Mm.
So during COVID, right, kids still had to take some exams, like they had to take AP exams, stuff like that. This is where the TikTok thing started for me. So I said, you know what? My business is shut down. I literally can't go to my office. What do I do with my time? Right. So I started making study guides for AP exams, SAT, ACT. I released them for free and I did a TikTok video about it. Right. The TikTok video gets millions of views. My website gets crushed,
Wow.
actually collapsed my website. There was at one point, I think, 100,000 people on my website at one time. Now, normally my website might not even have 100,000 visitors in a month, nonetheless, at one moment. So there was just crazy traffic. I released them for free. It helped tons of kids. Um, and that really kind of opened my eyes to like the value of information. Like people want this kind of information.
And the value of the social media as a tool to release that
Yes.
information.
How else? Yeah. How else would you get it out there? Like
That's
social
so
media is
wild.
the way to get it out. And, I think there's so many students out there because like tons of students would reach out to me. They would comment on my videos. They would post about it. Students generally speaking, want to do well in school. They want to improve themselves. They want to get better. They want to get into a great college. It's like, I just need a way to learn about it. If I'm 16 years old, where do I get this kind of information? They go to social media. Like that's their mode of understanding things, right?
Search
So,
engine.
yeah, exactly, right. So that was what really kind of set my mind afire. Like just there's an incredible way to reach people.
So I'm curious on the back end, is it all give, 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 or is there like a sale in there of like how do people find your company through this? I'm curious, is it all like back end of like, wow, this page is really great. I've learned a lot. Let me check out more about them. Or at the end of it, do you pitch something? Or I'm curious just from a business perspective, what that looks like.
Yeah, from a business perspective, we monetize it by basically like creating video courses that if someone wants more help, right? So it's kind of like a lost leader. Like, okay, download this study guide, find this free page online, watch this TikTok video. Okay, I want more of this, right? Then go to my link in bio, go down to my website. I have a whole Nick the Tutor persona. I have all courses by Nick the Tutor, and that's what the video course that we were talking about really is. That's how that came to be,
Yeah.
right? It was like, okay, I want to make something to sell to people that want more. right? I can't like, create this. I basically did the video course like this in the studio. Like I filmed everything. It took hours and hours. I had edited. You know how much time and
Oh,
effort
I
that
can't even
takes.
imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do. I've worked with companies before, so we would talk about the fact that I do video work for companies that have done courses, and they most of the time they don't understand how much work is involved,
it's an
and
incredible
on
amount of
both
work.
end,
Yeah,
on their end and also on our end,
yeah,
So,
it's an incredible amount of work. But
but
uh,
if done well, it pays off tremendously.
yes, you can. I mean, look, course creation is like a huge industry in and of itself. Like people can make tons of money. Anything. I remember when this happened, actually, I got reached out to by one of the course creation companies because they wanted to basically get me to make a course. This is also part of how it happened. And I said, why should I do this? They're like, well, here's an example. We're going to show you this right now. And I remember they showed me this guy who made a welding course. I don't remember his name or whatever, but he made a welding course. He somehow got himself on TV for like some sort of welding show or something. He was making like $800,000 a year without stepping foot out of his house, just off of his welding course.
Wow.
And there's people with like, I think they showed me another person, like a young lady with like a bread baking, like sourdough bread baking course or something like that. She's making like $300,000 a year, like filming herself baking bread.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just thought that was cool. Like I tip my hat to those folks that are doing stuff like that.
So did you go through that company, or did you end up just saying I'm going to do this in house?
I did go through that company, which is just a hosting. Like I
Yeah.
filmed it myself and it's just hosted there. I still host it there. But what the limiting factor of that is it's just a video course. I need to have like students take tests. I need students to, you know, have their performance analyzed. That's where it can't do that. It could just make the video course, which is great. But like I also want to incorporate all these other things
Oh,
into it
sure. Absolutely. I mean, it's totally
eventually.
different. It's like a leg of the
Yeah.
business. Absolutely. Now, when with for example, the testing you're talking about on TikTok, and that exploded, that course was that course available yet or no?
No, I
Oh, that
had
was
to.
just the start of your
Yeah,
social media stuff.
that
Yeah.
was the start. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one of my students mentioned TikTok to me like super early. Like she was just like, "Oh,
2018,
this thing
2019.
is
Yeah.
blowing up," and I was like, "What is this?" Like, it was probably 2019ish, and I don't know the date of my first video, but like literally 10, 15 videos in, I had just this video go crazy, and then since then, I've done thousand probably videos, but you do get very burnt out doing TikTok. You have to do multiple videos a day. You have to create new content. It's tough, but that's kind of part of doing this was me reinvigorating myself to like get back into it because I do see a huge value for my business in doing that kind of stuff. But I just needed to take time off of it to work on my business.
Yeah.
And now my business is like growing. We're getting all these schools on board. We're in a much better place. We are always in a good place, but now we're really like picking up steam and developing new stuff and really like taking it to the next level. So then I can kind of pull back and say like, let me get on my social media grind. Let me get on my content grind because I still want to provide that value for students.
Dude, I hear you, man. It's a grind. It
It is,
really is coming from the YouTube
it's
space,
rough. Yeah, it's
and
rough. Sometimes it's rough.
it really is, and it's rough, particularly if you don't fully love what you're doing. And I think that's the hardest part is like, or if you don't totally see the initial ROI. I think those two things are the hardest things about the industry because it's, at least from my experience, I found that it becomes really easy to pander to what's doing well. And if what's doing well isn't aligned to what you actually really enjoy doing, that little tilt is fine for a while, but after down that road, and that's what happened to me, man. Like I was a musician, and I had all this music content. I was making my own music, and I started going down these music breakdown videos where I was talking about popular songs, and I had all this experience in the music industry. So I'd say, oh, let's listen to this song together. We'll break it down. This is how they recorded this. This is the instrument. This is the chord progression. All this stuff. They were cool. They were great. But I became known as that guy, and now I'm so far down that road. Nobody really cared about this guy. I'm like, but no, this is the whole reason I
Yeah,
started this thing. So then and it becomes exhausting. It became my job, not my
yeah,
9 to 5. And people are like, oh wow, you're a YouTuber. I'm like, yeah, it kind of sucks, like. But it's like you have to find that middle
yeah.
ground,
So
and
many YouTubers I feel get totally burnt out.
it's all about doing what you enjoy,
I
and
do pay attention to it. Like there's so many people that make incredible amount of money doing this kind of stuff. I mean, just now streamers. I mean, they're just like, but you could see some of them really love it, and some of them are just get burnt out. They have to take time off. They have whatever crazy stuff happened to them. Like it's hard, like people always see the after effects. Like they see someone has 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, or they see someone that has hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram or TikTok, and they just think that like it's luck or like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
It's so I have 7,000 videos on YouTube.
yeah,
You know,
it's
it was a
it's a
lot of work.
grind.
Yeah.
It's a grind, and like I think that and it looks easy when you see the end result and you see someone posting a video on TikTok and it getting 6 million views or 10 million views, whatever, and you're like, that video literally could have taken 15 seconds to film, but they don't see the other 1,000 videos that you filmed before it that flopped and that you had to grind through and you hated doing and whatever the case may be, So I'm right there with you, bro.
It's totally true, man. But but that being said, social media is totally you are a testament to the power that social media has behind it. So utilizing it in a way that's I think the key is utilizing it in a way that's sustainable to you, and that might be for one person posting 5 times a day, and that's sustainable for a season, and sometimes it's not. And navigating that and finding the balance of like, okay, what season am I in,
Yeah.
and trying to just at least stay consistent in that season.
Yeah.
So it's been a real pleasure, man, hearing your story. I think that a lot of people and a lot of business, a lot of schools can benefit from you, and even business owners who have kids in schools can benefit from the services you provide. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come, and I wish you all the best, man. It's
Yeah.
been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
You got it.
Yeah.